As bowl possibilities unfold, Vandy must address depth issues no matter what, and looks like they have some help coming on the way.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, there's lots of bowl possibilities floating around, and we'll talk about that later, but they're waiting to be sorted out in the wake of the upcoming SEC championship. So no matter where Vandy goes, though, no matter where they end up, they must start addressing some of these depth issues, and looks like they already are. So we look at the offensive side of the ball, okay? We look at the most obvious is always offensive line, okay? That is number one, first and foremost, all the time. You can never have too much offensive line depth. That is never a thing. All right. But one of the things that they need to address really is the passing game. And one of the things with the passing game, one of the biggest needs in the passing game is wide receiver. And they got a little bit of good news. Just as I was preparing my notes for the show and preparing everything, I caught wind that Kayleb Barnett out of Jenks, Oklahoma, has committed. He's a little bit on the small side. They were able to get him committed over from Central Arkansas, so he's a bit of a hidden gem. But they were able to get him committed for the 2025 class, and he's looking to fill that slot role that can be kind of a utility guy for Tim Beck in this offense. And what I really like is his versatility, and he's going to add some depth. Obviously, he's going to need to get in the weight room and gain a little bit of weight. But nonetheless, he is shifty, he's fast, and he can make some things happen with the ball in his hands. He played at Jenks and he played at Broken Arrow before, but he's a guy that can run your jet sweeps. He's a guy that possibly fits in special teams. Very shifty, very tough to bring down. And sometimes these smaller guys are just that, and they're pesky and whatever. But I really like him in special teams. I think he can add a spark that Junior Sherrill was able to add throughout the season, and Martell Height. I think he kind of fits that mold a little bit. But this passing game just needs some bit of a spark. They need something. They need a jolt, because that's kind of the thing, honestly, that was holding this offense back, was they just did not have the depth at the wide receiver position of guys that could separate, that were ready to contribute. I mean, Joseph McVay can separate. He obviously showed that, but it was apparent that he wasn't quite ready, and as he develops, he'll become more ready within the scheme. Tristan Brown the same way, the two talented freshmen that are on the roster right now that'll probably get a lot of run in the bowl game. But those guys are also going to be guys that need to be developed a little bit as well. And then you bring in some guys from the portal, which there's a list a mile long of receivers that we like in the portal, one from down the road in Middle Tennessee State. But Kayleb Barnett coming in from Oklahoma, that's going to be another a depth piece, especially for the slot position. And in this offensive scheme with Tim Beck and what he likes to do, you need a shifty guy like that can be a pitch man, that can be a bubble guy, that can run motions, jet sweeps, that can be involved in special teams as well, and just kind of an all-around utility guy. Not a huge guy, not somebody that you're going to throw the ball to in the back corner of the end zone when you need a jump ball, but he's somebody that can make some things happen as a utility guy. So congrats to Kayleb Barnett. Looking forward to getting him on campus. Some of these guys, you think, okay, they don't have a ton of offers, but guess what? Ladd McConkey didn't have a ton of offers coming out of high school either. And not saying this guy's Ladd McConkey, but you just never know with recruiting. It's one of those things that's very inexact science. And sometimes you find these diamonds in the rough of guys that don't have a whole lot of film, don't have a whole lot of size, but have a whole lot of ability and have a whole lot of intelligence. And you just don't know kind of how that can shake out sometimes. And what I've seen from this kid so far in some of his clips in the higher classifications in Oklahoma, he's tough to tackle. He's, especially at a small size, he's tough to tackle. You can't get a good shot on him. He's very shifty and very quick. So like that addition as well. But some guys that are announcing to the portal, I mean, there's a list of names a mile long coming into the portal, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you've got, you've got Micah Hudson hitting he's Loic Fungi's teammate over at Texas Tech. You've got, Kevin Concepcion. He was ACC Rookie of the Year, freshman All-American in 2023 from NC State. Could swap sides during the bowl game if they get matched up with NC State. He was targeted by Vandy out of high school, probably looking to change his mind maybe. I don't know. Could be one of those things where you see him transfer after the bowl game. Who knows? But he's certainly going to be in the mix as well. FIU star receiver Eric Rivers, he's hitting the transfer portal. He had 1,172 yards and 12 touchdowns for a very abysmal FIU team. He was one of the lone bright spots for them. He's sought after, and he could use some NIL potential to move up to Nashville, get in the SEC, and get that opportunity that he might not get at some bigger programs, and he can get that. He can get that tape, and there's immediate need. From right down the road, Amari Kelly from MTSU. He's a former Auburn guy. He thrived, caught 53 passes for Derek Mason's team and almost 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. MTSU wasn't great this year, so sometimes stats can be a little misleading, but he's not quite there yet. We'll address some quarterback things later on, because I think with the quarterback issues, you're looking at the issues are going to arise from whether or not Diego Pavia wins his case, because that's still up in the air, where it was thought originally that this was a one and done year for Pavia and that was going to be it, but there's a chance that there's a loophole. So they're just kind of waiting for that to play out. But, lots of great names in the transfer portal so far. And lots of good opportunities and for some guys and for Vandy to get some higher profile guys here. I'm really excited about what they have a chance to bring here. There's some really talented guys out there, especially at the wide receiver position. There's some electric guys coming from the ACC, coming from the American Conference and some of these G5 conferences. There's some super talent there. Offensive line. I mean, I'm digging this, man. I'm hoping Chase Mitchell had a good experience, because he can look over to his former teammate Xavier Gray and say, "Hey, you're 6'8", 340 pounds. You have one of the highest run blocking grades in Conference USA. Why don't you come on down to Vandy? It's good down here. Coach Klenakis is really, really good, and you should come play for him." So come on down. There's a connection there. Maybe he can help recruit him. But again, with Vandy's identity, whatever pass pro issues he has might not be a huge. I mean, pass pro is always a big deal, but it might not be as big of a deal in our scheme as and it could be also that, hey, there's room for a 6'8" strong guard as well. So who knows? But he's super talented, and he can certainly develop in that area. But Cody Epps at wide receiver coming from BYU. He's entered the portal as a grad transfer. He had 73 catches, 819 and 7 tuds. He's missed a lot of time. He's somebody that could Trent Hudson from Mississippi State. If you want to continue the Vandy State Aggie door thing, he had 551 yards and 10 touchdowns last season at New Mexico State. And he was at Mississippi State this past season. Didn't get a whole lot of run, looking to hit the transfer portal as well. So there's a lot of options abound. The recruitment of Kayleb Barnett or Kayleb Barrett is going to be absolutely outstanding for the depth of this wide receiver room. So I'm looking forward to it as offensive linemen continue to unfold into the portal. Those needs will be addressed as well, because there's going to be a lot of good names on the offensive line that sneak into the portal as well, because guys want opportunities. Some of these G5 guys want that tape for NFL scouts. Some of these FCS guys that are good that went under the radar might be looking as well. So there's a lot of possibilities abound. I mean, there's some good offensive linemen out there. You find some like Stephen Hubbard out of UTEP, like nobody saw that coming. He's been pretty good. Stephen Lasoya needed another opportunity coming over from Mississippi State. He started at center. Him and Castillo swapped positions. So, that could be a welcome transition for him to open up the door for other guys that are looking to say, okay, well, maybe I play this position, but I see an opportunity at this position and I can cross train. There's going to be opportunity for me to see the field if I learn multiple positions, things like that can really kind of open some doors for some of this offensive talent. There's some needs. There's going to be a lot of need at wide receiver. There's going to be a lot of need on the offensive line. So Vandy should be able to open up some NIL dollars now that they had a more successful season at 6-6. They're a little bit more comfortable. Administration's probably going to, and collectives are probably going to be willing to spend more money on talent. So you have to consider that, and you have to think, okay, well, it's going to be a little bit more of a successful portal season. Last year was successful enough somehow, but this year they're going to capitalize off the success that they've had up until this point. So that being said, there's also a lot of possibilities abound on the defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of recruits coming in, a lot of high school guys coming in. That's going to build some depth. So you get a little bit of a youth movement there on defense. Julian Humphrey comes in. We'll talk about how the defense unfolds in the transfer portal next. All right, what time is it? I think my watch says Game Time. That's right. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. That's right. If you want to go to if you live in Denver right now and you want to go to if you wanted to go to this Denver game, they probably had some great deals. But Game Time Picks curates those to make it easier to save more on sports because it's right there in front of you. You can save on the Nate Bargatze Big Dumb Eyes Tour is kicking off. I bet if you get on Game Time, you can look at any of those locations and find some great seats there. All right, all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So if you're at Wrigley Field or Fenway Park or Yankee Stadium, I think those are the only stadiums left that have obstructed view seats. Check the app before you buy. Just make sure you're getting the right seat. Don't get stuck behind a support beam at Yankee Stadium because you just did not look in the Game Time app. They also have the lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a lower price. That's a challenge to you. Game Time ticket coverage. Also, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day, and thanks for making Creve Hall Bagel Company your first bagel choice in Nashville. They're locally owned sourdough bagels, so tasty, man. They have lots of options, lots of drink options as well. They make special latte beverages and coffees and whatever you want. Also, they have different creative creations like their variation of Pop-Tarts, Rice Krispie treats, muffins, gluten-free. They have their own version of cinnamon rolls that they make. I mean, it's outstanding. You can't go wrong at Creve Hall Bagel. So make sure you check that out. And while you're listening to my show and you're chowing down some Creve Hall Bagel, when my show ends, if you need a second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy, phenomenal job in his own right. And then we all come together and it drops every Thursday. We all come together and do SEC Squad. That's not stopping. That was a football thing at first. It's not stopping. It's going to continue and continue and continue. So the boys of the SEC Squad are going to hear a lot about Mark Byington during basketball season. They're going to hear a lot about all these wonderful transfers that Vandy's going to bring in, and the Gasparilla Bowl or Liberty Bowl win that they're going to have wherever they end up, the Birmingham Bowl maybe. So there's going to be a lot of possibilities here abound for the squad show and for chances to get Vandy's name out there. So tune into that. Anyway, we're talking transfer portal. We're talking depth issues. All right. One of the biggest things that happened with this team was the depth issues. Okay. And that was probably the thing I think that kept Vandy from winning 8 games, to be honest with you, because they ran out of gas against Tennessee. They had LSU on the ropes, dream starts in both games, tuckered out, ran out of gas. Right against South Carolina, they were beat up, and South Carolina took advantage, and they just shoved the ball down Vandy's throat and made them pay for being tired and not having people to put in that are fresh. South Carolina had a little bit deeper of a team. They were able to withstand it, and they just kept pouring it on, right? Against Texas, they ran out of gas because up front, Texas kept rolling in some fresh bodies, and in the end, they just couldn't muster up the strength to put in, to put the ball across the end zone one more time. They lose that game. In overtime against Missouri, that wasn't really a depth issue. I think that was just kind of a personnel scheme issue where they got caught in a one-on-one with one of the best players in college football all around. And that's just never a good situation. But, the depth issues are there. Their starting 11 was competitive with any starting 11 in the entire conference. It's just when you get to the 2s and the 3s, or the 2s and the rotational guys, that the teams that are at the top of the conference have a little bit deeper of a depth chart than Vandy did. That's kind of what separates them. So looking at the defensive levels, they need depth on all levels on defense. There's a lot of guys, a lot of possibilities out there that they need to address. Cornerback is one of them. They addressed it last year in last year's portal season, and a lot of those guys kind of petered out and weren't able to play. For various reasons. Mark Davis is planning to come back. He had some health issues. Thankfully, he's okay. He's going to contribute. You had some other guys that didn't get in, but they weren't able to. They still may be in the mix, but they just weren't able to join this past season. Jalen Lackey got a lot of great time because of that. Martell Height, Tyson Russell. A lot of these guys got some good run because of that. Colby Taylor probably got pressed into action a little too soon and a little bit out of position. I think he's more of a slot corner, nickel corner, kind of like a low boundary corner, somebody that doesn't need a whole lot of space. I think he got pressed into action a little too soon because of depth issues. So I think that's something that Vandy's going to look to address. And one of the biggest fish in the portal is Julian Humphrey. I mean, he got beat out at Georgia. He's somebody that I think just kind of fell out of favor with Kirby Smart, and now he's hitting the transfer portal. He's looking for a home, and I bet he would love to stay in conference. I don't know what that means for him. I don't know who all's going to go after him, but I think Vandy, with the NIL opportunities that they have, with some of the things that they can do in the city of Nashville, some of the things they can do with Clark Lee's scheme, he may fit right in. And if I'm Vandy, I don't know. I go for him. I go after him, right? There's going to be a lot of guys, a lot of corners in the portal. I think with Carson Lawrence and I think with some of the recruiting, you're going to get you're going to get a lot of safety help from the high school ranks. So that's going to be something that, again, that's going to be addressed with some youth. Dante Carter, I think, is going to come back and lead that bunch. And you're going to see some pretty talented guys there. And you're going to, again, the secondary is going to be in good hands. So you're in pretty good shape here. But Carson Lawrence being the most coveted Davin Chandler, both very similarly built safeties, going to come in and just kind of pair up. You got Vonzel Hinton from Paducah. He's coming in as a corner from the high school ranks. It's Caden Daniels. So you're getting some help. You're getting some guys in, but you're going to have to build some of that depth through the portal as well. And why not go get a superstar like Julian Humphrey to kind of mentor some of these young guys and just kind of work together. But you're getting some really good defensive help from the high school ranks: Josiah Broxton, Austin Howard, George O'Corey, and Jack Stanish on the edges at the linebacking cores. So you're getting a lot of help there, because I think you're going to need to solidify some things as Langston Patterson looks to be gone. Bryce Cowan, those guys. I think Patterson might be a junior, so he might not be gone just yet, but he'll be gone soon because he's going to run eligibility. He's one of those, I think, that he's been playing for so long for Vandy, it just feels like he's been there for 10 years, but he may just be a junior. So I'm going to have to double check that, because he's one of those that you never really know. You're never really sure, because let's see, he feels like he's been there, like I said, for 27 years. But I'm really excited about the way the defense is shaking out. I think with Clark Lee, a lot of people are looking for him to get some help on the defensive side of the ball so that he can maybe focus on being a head coach more. Langston Patterson's a junior. He's like the 38-year-old junior, No, I'm just kidding. But for real though, he is a junior, so he will be back one more year. That's going to be exciting for him and for this defense. So, a lot of help here coming in from the defense, and you're going to, like I said, it's going to benefit it tremendously. And there's a lot of possibilities. And this portal stuff, I'm just talking about possibilities right now. There's no like targets. There's no like immediate offers or anything like that. It's just guys that Vandy's interested in that could fill some holes, that could create some depth at different places. So again, exciting times. I don't think there's going to be a ton of people leaving Vandy in the portal either. Not as many as this year. I think there's going to be some, but not as many as last year. I think there was like 40 something that left. It may be more that left in the portal last year from Vandy. But the environment was not anywhere near as toxic. So, but the bowl game is going to say a lot. The bowl game, is a chance for some of these young guys to get some run, and you're going to see what bowls are going to allow them to get the opportunities, and who we're going to play against. What our team's going to look like. There's a lot of things that happen between now, bowl selection, and for bowl selection through the spring when you have a couple transfer portal windows. So stay tuned. We'll talk about bowl possibilities next. All right, FanDuel. Yeah, man. Get ready to tackle some NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because after conference championship weekend, NFL is really going to be all you have for a little bit until bowl season starts. So right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. And if you bet on there's a lot of tough ones that you probably lost, but if you bet on the Falcons, you probably didn't win that one. But I like to do the anytime touchdowns. If you bet Nick Westbrook-Akine on an anytime touchdown, he had 2. You could bet him on a multiple touchdown. He had 2. So he had a really, really nice week for the Titans. About the only lone bright spot there. But FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Again, I remind you, find us on YouTube if you like us. Subscribe. Find us on Instagram at Locked On Vandy, and all social media platforms at Coach Burton 36 on X if you wish. I have a TikTok. So search Locked On Vandy on TikTok now. I'm starting to expand a little bit, and there's a potential announcement coming very, very soon There's a new partnership in the making, so cross your fingers there. And we're going to expand this brand, dude. Thanks to all of you for making this possible. So I haven't done this in a while. Very excited to bring it back. It's the Baker's Dozen version. It's the Baker's half dozen version, something like that. Anyway, I got 5 on it, but it's really 6. I got 5 on it. It's the holiday 5-pack. I don't know how you could. I got 6 things in a 5 on it segment because I wanted a bonus feature. But here's some bold projections, and these are pretty interesting. The Gasparilla Bowl seems to be a fairly unanimous selection for possibility for Vanderbilt. Some of these matchups, NC State seems like a really good matchup. I think that's a very favorable, respectable matchup for Vanderbilt. I think that's one that they can definitely win, and that's one that's really highly respectable if they can win. They had a really nice game, down to the wire game with Georgia Tech earlier in the season. NC State, Carter Bailey's AJ Bailey, not Carter Bailey. AJ Bailey, really good quarterback for NC State, and Dave Dorn. They have a really athletic team, really kind of a pesky team, scrappy team. Just didn't perform as well in this season as they wanted to, but they had a lot of promise, and they're super talented. They just, for some reason, couldn't put it together. But it's a very respectable opponent there, so I'm with that. The game above Sports Bowl, which I think used to be the Little Caesars Bowl, which I think used to be the Quick Lane Motor City Bowl, in Detroit versus Ohio. I don't love that matchup. I don't think that brings a lot to the table. I think if Vandy goes to that one, it's a little bit of a disappointment as far as the matchup goes, because at the end of the day, you make a bowl game. Yeah, the extra practices are phenomenal, but you want to be in a good bowl site. You want to be against a good opponent. You want some of that juice, right? If you're Vandy, you want a little bit more of a P5 matchup, right? Because that's what you crave, right? You want that, comparable competition. Another great opportunity would be the Liberty Bowl versus Kansas State. I really love this matchup. Kansas State's a really highly physical team under Chris Kleiman, and they do a lot of great things. They had a really big win against Tulane this season. Again, it didn't unfold. The Big 12 was kind of crazy, and it didn't unfold for Kansas State like they wanted it to. I think they got beat up. I didn't follow their season too much, but they got beat up a little bit, I think. And they just kind of fell apart there towards the end of the season. They had a really nice start to the season. They were ranked at some point. So they're a super talented team. Really good, prestigious matchup for Vanderbilt. Really good, respectable matchup. Win or lose, I think you give Kansas State a good game. That's a game that people can say, okay, well, you played a good game. You played a good team. It just kind of shows you where your development's at. I really like that matchup. The Guaranteed Rate Bowl, which is out in Phoenix. Not a great travel bowl for Vandy fans. I don't know how many Vandy fans would travel out to Phoenix. Depends on how excited. I think if they would have finished with 8 wins and got this bowl game, I think they might have, but who knows? It's a good matchup. I like the matchup with Pitt. I think Pitt's a well-coached team. I think they're out of the ACC, so it's a respectable conference. Pat Narduzzi does a great job there, but he's, again, tough end of the season, but they were at one point they had one loss deep into the season, fell apart there towards the end. But again, a really good, I think a good matchup. I don't love the location for that bowl game. It needs to be one that Vandy fans are going to travel to, I think, because people want to see this game. But I think it's again, it's a good matchup, good TV matchup. Just not the most favorable location. But again, Vandy, you go 6-6 after a 2-10 season. Being picky is not really the answer. But a couple other Gasparilla Bowl possibilities: a home game against USF, or a home game for USF against Vanderbilt. I think that would probably be the most disappointing matchup outside of Ohio for the bowl season. USF is a solid program, but I think that'd be disappointing for USF too, because I think part of bowl season is wanting to travel and go to other places. And then, of course, Gasparilla versus Pitt. I think if you're going to play Pitt, that would be the place to do it in the Gasparilla Bowl. But ideally, if you play Gasparilla against ACC, you're going to want NC State. I think that's probably a better matchup than Pitt. But I really love the Kansas State matchup in the Liberty Bowl. I wish it was somewhere other than Memphis. I'd like to see Vandy travel down to Florida and just try to play in a different state so that they can kind of showcase their newer brand of Vandy football in the state of Florida, where there's a lot of talent, maybe, for recruiting purposes, not necessarily nothing against Memphis, but I think you're in that like Florida, that those Florida bowls carry a little bit more weight on, unfortunately for the Liberty Bowl. But again, I love the matchup. If the Liberty Bowl can create that matchup with Kansas State, I'd be all for it. That's a game that I would like to see. And so a lot of possibilities, but nonetheless, building depth is going to be the key. So building depth on the roster that you already have while looking to make some evaluations during bowl practices and saying, okay, here's what we need to build. We need to go after this, this, and this. Okay, we need this, and that. And let's see what we can build between the freshmen coming in, the freshmen that came in last season that didn't really play much, the down the line guys, get them some run during bowl practices. Send these guys out. Depending on what happens with Diego Pavia, that's gonna have some ripple effect as well, not just with Vandy, but throughout college football, because his situation could change the way we look at JUCO football from this point forward. So that's going to be an important thing. We're going to have Kurt Page on. If everything goes as planned, Kurt Page should be on to the next episode. We're going to talk quarterback possibilities, and what Diego Pavia's case, the different possibilities that come from that. Some of the quarterbacks that are in the portal that Vandy could look at if they need to. And we'll do all of that and continue to unfold these bowl projections, continue to unfold these transfer portal things, these recruiting things as we near signing day. As that rapidly approaches. But until next time, anchor down, be safe, enjoy, and we'll see you back here next time on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Peace.